But they're going to use the Moors in order to camel back off of. Like openly. Right? The African Times and Orient Review published an article contributed by Ferris wherein he praised an article previously contained in the same journal by Marcus Garvey. In 1913, The African Abroad was reviewed in the African Times and Orient Review. According to Duse Muhammad Ali, this book is yet another reinforced cornerstone in the world African effort to rescue from preeminent concealment or age-long ignorance the pre-Egyptian history of the African. So this is a writer that worked with Duse Muhammad Ali that was promoted by Duse Muhammad Ali that we don't hear about in the quote-unquote Afrocentric circle. And if we do hear about him, we don't hear about his connection to Duse Muhammad Ali. Because the idea is to suppress the Moors. That's the only way that the water is going to be bad. And people have messed up mind frames and concepts. And in 1913, the book African Abroad, William H. Ferris writes about Duse Muhammad Ali now. So now this is him now talking about Duse Muhammad Ali, right? While some of the colored leaders in America have been teaching their followers to despise books and scholarship, Duse Muhammad, denationalization, again, this is by his own brother now, denationalize him, right? Duse Muhammad in England has been writing plays, sketches, tragedias, the libretto of a musical comedy, a coronation ode, a history of Egypt, a romance, a series of essays in drama, and editing a magazine of world scope and significance. When men of soaring ambition in the colored race in America receive encouragement, then and only then can we expect the Duse Muhammad and Honorable James Carmichael Smith to rise in America. So this is individual that, and again, it's out of ignorance, right? Because if you don't, if you have, it's just like you were saying with the conditioning. You have that old school mentality, right? Think about what these people, these colored black Negro people's mentality was back then with whatever they had back in those times. Like the level of ignorance that they're under. Like we go on the internet and find something. Like they can't even walk 50 miles without seeing and they probably still wouldn't see a library or anywhere that has books or whatever. Right? Because it was about the suppression of the information with the Negro black colored people. Because when you talk to Negro black colored people, all they're going to tell you about is the time of slavery. And that's it. And that's all they know. And that's all they uphold and that's all they go by. And then we tell them about, well, why don't you research Africa? Oh, I don't know, Africa and all that. What do you mean? How are you going to say that you're a slave, but then you're not going to go research your history that you say that they stole from you or that they took from you? And there's people presenting this information that look just like you, but then you have people out of ignorance, like William H. Ferris, that would just, write that, well, Duse Muhammad, he's popular. And they'll give him praise and all that, but they're not going to attach that Ali on there to solidify the fact that he's a Moor. They'll call him Muslim over a Moor. Or they'll call him a Pan-African and Afro-Asian activist instead of a Moor. When he's sitting there with a fez on, like, it has to be said. Just like Shakespeare said, the Moor of Venice. And then you don't hear about Othello at all. You hear about all these other plays that he's doing, and then when you hear about Othello, it's some slanted version. Or they just say, oh yeah, you know the Othello? No, that's not, like, it's Othello the Moor of Venice. Like, that's the name of it. You know? It's like we were talking about last week with, you know, oh yeah, the Catholics. No, they're Roman Catholics. Like, call them what they are. He's a European. That he's either British or Dutch or French or whatever. Don't call him a white man. He's not a white man. Don't call me a Negro. Like, I'm not a Negro. I'm not black. I'm not colored. Or more. Just like that man wants to be called German, and that man wants to be called Irish, and that man wants to be called whatever, I want to be called more. Because that's what I'm known as. But if they could attach a label on you and make you run after that, then we're in the situation that we're in, where we don't know ourselves. John Edward Bruce, co-founder of the Negro Society for Historical Research. So this is the founder, these are the guys that asked Duse Mohamed Ali to be a member. They elected him. And they came together and said, yo, you're gonna be a member. Because the custom is that you can't deny stuff like that. This is where the whole thing about giving people honorary degrees come from. And knighting people and lording people and all that. Because all those concepts were us giving whoever power. Because the Moors were the actual monarchy. When you talk about Duse Mohamed Ali in England in the 1900s, you're talking about he's engaged with Moors in the House of Commons. It's not only Europeans that are in there. Like, he's engaging people that look like him that are heads of government. This is like the scope that the book brings into perspective. Because the time frame that they're talking about is the time frame of them starting to weed us out. As far as the monarchy is concerned, and the heads of government in Europe, right? Ancient and modern Brits, David McRitchie will tell you about all that, about during the time frame of when Duse Mohamed Ali was in Europe. Right? Even that book won't mention Duse Mohamed Ali, but it'll talk about the Moors in Europe. Right? David McRitchie. Right? So this is just show you that people know about Moors. They themselves choose to abandon that position, being ignorant of what it really is. Because they took what somebody told, opposed to going and checking for themselves. Like, what is this? What is this thing like Moors? Like, what is this? Like, I'm gonna go put this in the internet, and they're gonna give me all these pages about all this information. I'm gonna go to the library, and they're gonna have like shelves and shelves and shelves and books and books and books about this like quote unquote people called the Moors. And then all these books that on the cover of it says the Moors. The book itself is going to be talking about the Muslims and the Berbers and the Arabs and whatever, but the cover says Moors. And in the book they'll never say Moors, like throughout the whole book. They'll break them down into these sections, which is how they do our people, which is why we don't rep the African perspective of anything, because Africa is separated. You look at it on the map, Africa, and there's lines, and these guys say they're that people, and these guys say they're that, but they're on one landmass, and they're all these separate, and this guy's chopping up this next tribe because they crossed over something. Like, that's your own people. That's your cousin right there that you just chopped up. Right? But that's what the separation sorcery is about. The sorcery of races. To get people looking at each other as different. right? When they're all the same. They're all Moors. And they're not the label that was put on them. Right? This dude's interesting. James Wormley Jones was an African-American policeman, World War I veteran, and FBI agent. Jones is most widely known for being the first African-American FBI special agent. Jones was appointed as the first African-American special agent on November 19, 1919 by the Bureau of Investigation Director A. Bruce Bielski. Jones was assigned to the new section of the Justice Department created to track the activities of groups perceived as subversive. His work there is under the direct supervision of J. Edgar Hoover. Right? So, November 19th, 1919, there's this brilliant idea that anybody who's against the European perspective, status quo, like, they're subversive. And we need to infiltrate it and then destroy it. Because it's going to change the people's mind frame. It's going to get them out of their dumbed out mind state. Regardless of what school of thought it is. Because every school of thought that we say is a school of thought was infiltrated. Like every one of them. Infiltrated and buried. Things change, people don't even know what's right from wrong. Because of infiltration. Right? So this is a tactic that they use. So during this time in the FBI, Jones served in New York and Pittsburgh. In New York, he was assigned to infiltrate the Universal Negro Improvement Association under the leadership of Marcus Garvey. Although he was seeking evidence of subversive activities during the Red Scare of 1919, Jones' work led to the arrest and trial of Garvey on mail fraud charges. Right? So this is directly around the time that they were trying to get Garvey out. Right? While conducting his surveillance, Jones adopted the code number 800 for his reports. He apparently knew that his clandestine role was not well concealed. During a March 1920 speech at the UNIA Liberty Hall, he took special pains to point out to the audience that he was indeed of African ancestry, although he had the appearance of a person of Caucasian or European ancestry. Nevertheless, he engendered the trust of the UNIA leadership to such an extent that he was able to gain responsibility for registering all incoming correspondence. So the agent was the mailman. Right? The agent, like the FBI agent, infiltrated such a deep level where he was receiving all the mail. Everything that comes in the mail has to go through his hands before it goes to anybody. Jones' report of UNIA infiltration. So this is a little section in the book. With Garvey's future uncertain, speculation arose as to who might succeed him. Jones and others within the UNIA thought that Duse Muhammad Ali was a likely candidate. Amy Jacques Garvey feared such a prospect, knowing that her influence would disappear if Ali gained power. Worried that Ali would attract the better class of Negro and make UNIA an organization that will have to be reckoned with, Jones sowed the seed of dissension. Ali invited John Mitchell, editor of the Richmond Planet, to address the UNIA members. Mitchell advised them to find a new leader if they were dissatisfied. Jones promised to see that Garvey gets this information about Mitchell's speech. True agent. Right? So, Duse Muhammad Ali is not just like the average individual out there, quote unquote black liberator or whatever, Pan-Africanist or activist or whatever, right? Like his influence touched every facet of what we would consider our liberation. Like the schools of thought that we would say are the schools of thought that we're supposed to belong to, because of